All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to speaking of getting started, welcome to Getting Started with HR Service Delivery. This is a live on ServiceNow webinar. We do several of these every month on different topics. My area is the employee workflows, which includes HR Service Delivery, as well as some other products. And we're always, again, happy to have you here. We'll be sharing some more about the Live on ServiceNow webinar series toward the end of this deck. We'll make sure that you have the ability to go see previous recordings as well as register for future sessions. First thing we want to talk about is the safe harbor notice. We may discuss things that will happen or may not happen in the future. So this is no guarantee that everything we discuss is on our roadmap. So we just want to make sure that you're aware of that. And we make no promises, but we always do our best. And I think we do a pretty good job. Yeah, so there are more and more webinars and what we call customer meetups that we do. The webinars are these series where we broadcast out to a large group. The customer meetups tend to be a much smaller group where we do a Q&A, sort of a few to one kind of thing with our subject matter experts. So please sign up for future sessions and see what's of interest to you. Some housekeeping. Yeah, please stay on mute. We want to make sure that everyone hears everything we have to say today. There is a Q&A toward the end of the session, but feel free to ask your questions using the Q&A panel at any time throughout the session. Always feel free to introduce yourself when asking the question. This session will be recorded and will be posted on our ServiceNow community, so you can always refer back to it. And then you'll also receive a short survey. We always like to hear feedback. How valuable was this for you? And Lee, you are on mute right now. So we do that as part of our setup. So please fill out that survey and let us know how we did today. I'm joined, thankfully, I'm Rue Adams. I'm the outbound product manager for employee workflows, and my focus is customer engagement. I'm joined by two of the smartest people I know on these topics. So I have Pooja Gupta here from our Unified Employee Experience. She's an expert in all things Employee Center, as well as content experiences. So I'm happy to have her here to answer your questions. And then Michael Sheridan, our Principal Product Success Architect with our HRSD Product Success team, is also here. I don't know if anyone knows more about HRSD than Michael, but he's kind of a humble guy, so he may not agree with me. But I'm happy to have both of them here supporting. Our agenda, we'll talk about implementing HRSD, we'll talk about resources, we'll talk about elements, and we'll talk about the employee experience. Again, why Pooja is here. And then we'll have some Q&A. Throughout this session, we'll talk about the resources that we have available, leading practices and considerations for you as you start to plan, deploy, and operate your HRSD solution. So we'll kick off with a poll question. What is the most used feature of HRSD within your organization? Since this is a getting started session, you may not have anything that you're using today. If you're not, then what are you thinking about using? So case management, knowledge management, employee center, now mobile, all the above, other. It would be great to kind of see where everyone is at. All right, a lot of votes for case management. All of the above, like it. It's also high on the rating, and employee center, which we'll talk about employee center and how much I love it and why I love it. Awesome. Yeah, feel free to keep answering those poll questions. Excellent. Yeah, so all case management and all of the above, definitely. Employee center, yes. Knowledge management, I was a knowledge manager. I'll talk a little bit about the value of knowledge management as well. Really happy to see these results. Thank you for sharing in the poll. All right, moving right along. Yeah, so the session we're doing today is based on an article that we've published in the ServiceNow community called the HR Service Delivery Welcome Guide. So if you go to community, you find HRSD in the navigational drop down. You click on on sort of the first tile, the getting started tile, and you'll end up with a link to this article. Everything we share today, most of what we share today, I think, the links, the resources are linked from this article. So you'll always have this as a place to go and get this information and navigate to it. How to implement HRSD. So we create success maps. There's one here for employee service delivery, and it kind of walks you through all the steps. Everything from what skills you're going to need, how to plan the project, how to run your organizational change management, as well as things more specific like setting up your HRSD professional or enterprise solution, and what software to consider, or what next applications and capabilities to consider. So we have these success maps. Definitely refer to it. It's very useful. The recommended sequence. So yeah, so our Now Create team has done this awesome document called the HRSD recommended implementation sequence. It actually takes you from sort of these core applications that we're talking about today, all the way up to some of our more advanced applications, and how you can build sort of from the foundation all the way up to a very robust solution, using machine learning and artificial intelligence, and predictive intelligence. So this is a great document to reference as you're starting to make your plan for what features and functionalities you're going to bring online and when. I refer to this quite frequently. I think it's very useful, and it gives a great roadmap to companies who are starting to implement their HRSD. So what can HRSD do for your organization? Well, we're going to talk about two features. The first is case and knowledge management. Obviously, standardizing your documentation, and in both how you fulfill employee requests, as well as helping employees self-help or self-serve, is sort of key to your success. And then the Employee Center Pro solution is an employee portal, cross-departmental, has a lot of engagement for the employees, really helps them easily find and request services that they need. So that's where we'll be focused primarily today, and we'll talk about some additional considerations around these products. Well, what else makes a successful HRSD implementation? So HR profiles, the data that you have about your employees. Obviously, as you start to think about targeting information to them, you might want to set up HR criteria and have an audience. So all employees in Germany would see information specific to them, and employees in Singapore find information specific to Singapore, and employees in North America find North American, and so on. So the HR profiles are critical to really building that sort of more personalized experience. The COE tables and the HR services creates a nice data model by which you can classify things like the cases that you receive. So when you look at your reports and you say, what are the cases that we're getting the most of, right? That we need to go either look at the knowledge or look at how we provide those services. Having a classification system for those cases and having HR services assigned is a great way to sort of know where to focus and where to make improvements. Then you have HR Agent Workspace. This will be the area where your agents actually come in and work on those cases, where they can engage, answer questions, and resolve those issues. HR role, security, and access. Obviously, you don't want everyone to have access to every single case. Maybe you have employee relations cases and you're going to have a specific group of agents who can work on those cases, who can do investigations. This is always a great place to have a plan around who can access what, who can do what, who can create knowledge. Definitely want to spend some time with role, security, and access. Dashboards and reporting. This is obviously, where you can start to look at those opportunities. What can we do faster, better? What needs improvement? How are we performing against maybe our baseline or against our targets? So dashboards and reporting are a great core feature of HRSD. And then integrations. So we're talking earlier about those HR profiles and having information about your employees. Oftentimes the integrations to, let's say, an HCM system would be core in setting that up. So we'll start with case and knowledge. Some of the highlights of these two systems, I'm kind of combining them and kind of not. So obviously you have a centralized HR agent workspace where your agents can go. They have a dashboard. They can look at, how many cases are beyond an SLA, what are the new cases that have been assigned. They can actually click through and work that case or transfer that case to someone else. So it will be a good, good experience for them. Relevant information can be easily shared. So you definitely have some opportunities with the knowledge base to create both articles for your caseworkers on how to resolve certain cases, as well as you have the opportunity to create knowledge articles for your employees so they can self-help or self-serve. You have the dashboards, which can help you see, what's trending, what needs to be resolved. And then you can protect your employee privacy. So things like, case confidentiality can be maintained. HR service delivery is a scoped app, which means that some data can be shared and some data can be restricted because you don't want someone with, let's say, IT privileges to see confidential HR cases. So high level on case management, in this instance, we have Harry, who's an agent. He's seeing his snapshot, his dashboard. He sees that there are 3 SLAs at risk. He has 1 high priority case. He sees all the cases listed on his dashboard. And the first one of those all cases is a payroll discrepancy that he notices for Emily. And so he clicks on that tile and it actually opens up the payroll discrepancy case in the agent workspace. Now Harry can go through and work the case and help Emily resolve her issue. He can start the work, he can finish the case, he can communicate back and forth with Emily through this agent workspace. So again, high level, these are some core capabilities of that case management, and helping your caseworkers and your agents know like what's on their docket, what can they be focused on, what should they be focused on, and helping them get that work done. From knowledge management, you can set up, like you have an HR admin role, they can set up their own knowledge base. Each knowledge base has different properties that can be changed, such as, do we automatically expire these articles after a certain period of time? And then force updates, right? So you don't want your articles to grow stale. You want to make sure that they're up to date, up to speed. So clicking on the HR human resources knowledge base, I come up with the list of all the articles, and these are sorted by a taxonomy using the COE terms. So there's a benefits section, an FAQ section, there's a payroll section, and so on. So depending on which COEs you're using, you can align all of the knowledge for those COEs within your knowledge base. And then obviously you have an actual article down here in the lower right, which is structured. This one is structured as an FAQ, just letting people know like what are the basic parental leave policies. I'm a big fan of knowledge and actionable knowledge. I tend to want to put links both at the top and at the bottom of a long article to say basically, hey, if you're going to request a parental leave, click this link. Maybe that you have a form or a workflow that kicks off, or maybe you have a tool where you request those leaves. Make it actionable, make it useful for the employees, so that they're not looking for a link or trying to find like, okay, now that I know all this information, where do I go next? Again, just something to consider. How do we want the employees to engage with our information? How do we want to structure it? I'm a big fan of knowledge templates and having some consistency there. And then later we'll talk a little bit about, how do I structure a team around the employee center portal? How do I structure a team around knowledge? And then here's a nice employee relations dashboard. This is kind of the out-of-the-box version of it. You can see the open cases that are past SLA. All of these are configurable. You can change this dashboard. You can add additional data points. But this gives you some idea of, now you can look through and see things, and then clicking on these tiles will actually take you to maybe that list of 144 open cases that you can then go start to work. Talked a little bit about HR roles and security. Here's a snapshot of the HR roles and security that I have in my demo instance. You can see that we have an HR group, and within the HR group, we then break it down into things like who are the employee relations investigators, right? Because even within your HR team, there are probably different folks who have access to highly confidential cases. You want to make sure that they have their access, and other HR workers don't have access to see those cases. And then you can have your talent management, your benefits, and your other COEs can all have their own groups and own level of access. HR services we mentioned earlier as well. You can create new HR services. Here's a list that comes out of the box, right? So 401k and accommodation requests and benefits inquiries and all the other payroll inquiries. So you can have a list of HR services. This is how you generally classify those cases as they come in. And this can also help you determine who needs to work those cases, right? So you may have agents who are specialists in things like payroll. You want them to work the payroll cases. You'll be able to see that as when those cases come in and they're assigned the HR service. And again, you can add or modify or remove HR services. So there's a lot of flexibility here. Just like there is with groups prior, you can add or remove groups or change their permissions. Employee Center. So Employee Center is that sort of one-stop shop, one place to go ideally for your employees to engage with certainly with HR, but Employee Center is also cross-departmental. So a number of our customers are already using it for HR and IT, and then starting to add other services like our workplace product and facilities or safe workplace. So other catalog items, other knowledge items can also be included on that same Employee Center portal. Really trying to get a more connected experience and not forcing employees to go to multiple places, or if they don't know where to go, forcing them into one place and one channel, and then they find out that that's not the place where they need to ask this question, right? And then lastly, you want to keep your employees updated around company news and events. Many of you may be approaching sort of open enrollment season. This is a great place to communicate that. There are probably year-end events coming up around things like annual reimbursements. And then in the US, I know right after the turn of the year, you have to start focusing on your tax season. So the Employee Center is a great place to sort of communicate out to all of those employees, like what's happening, what's next, what's due, when it's due. And you can do that with targeted campaigns. So again, those US employees get all the tax information that is relevant to them, but employees in other countries don't see that. Employee Center Pro, it's really the destination. This is the portal. So I was a customer a few years ago. We built our own custom portal because we didn't have Employee Center. This is the portal that I wanted to design and build. We got a pretty decent rendering, a pretty decent employee portal, but this was the one that I would have taken out of the box and just deployed out to my company. So really happy to see the Employee Center that's now available and the capabilities that it has. Things like the targeted information, the campaigns, one place to go, catalog items to make a request, knowledge, upcoming events. This is really kind of the place that it all comes together for your employees. This is where they would do their what we call tier 0 engagement, right? This is where they're getting that basic information that they need, and hopefully not needing to open a case. And then there's the mega menu and the topics that are on the mega menu from the homepage, as well as accessible from other pages on the Employee Center, and really getting you down into those deeper levels of information, right? So in this example, you start off on the homepage, you click the mega menu, you select IT, you go to, in this case, the dynamic topic page, which for IT, which lists knowledge articles and catalog items for employees to make requests. They click the I need information about a new laptop, and they get to the content page that gives them information about the Apple MacBook Pro. Similarly, you can have a dynamic topic page for things like benefits, and then they could choose a benefit like, hey, I need to get information about the dental benefit. And then you would have an HR knowledge article about dental benefits and how to sign up, and they can then go sign up for that benefit. So a lot of flexibility here. Really works from like a homepage experience down into a very specific topic area, and then down further into the information that they need at that moment. And then we have these targeted actionable communications. So this is our content experiences, where you can really have employees learn information that's relevant to them at that moment, have a call to action that clicks them into more information. If there's a go do or a to do, they can get it here, get that communication and complete it. If there's just information about the company and events happening at the company, maybe you want them to participate in an all hands, maybe there are holiday parties that you want to communicate, you can target those communications and you can get those campaigns launched to your employees. All right. So again, using the targeting capability, maybe there's a special event happening in Europe or over in Asia, and you want those employees to get the message, but other employees won't, because they're not part of that targeted group. They have their own communications that they need. So again, think about like, what are the opportunities I have to communicate out to employees as we go through sort of our annual cycles of both HR specific information as well as general employee information. And then earlier we showed you the success map for employee service delivery. Here's the success map for Employee Center. Again, it's based on that same sort of general structure, but it gets down into the specific details around how to be successful setting up your Employee Center. I'm gonna pause here. Michael, I see you've raised your hand.
Yeah, I just want to chime in a bit because this is a good step to where when you're going to implement Employee Center Pro, where there's some type of governance. Because remember, we talked about the unification. So we're dealing with IT, HR, maybe facilities, things of other organization or other business units on the same portal. So there has to be that governance rather than being more HR centric, IT centric. So as you get started, it's an important element of success is to have that governance to where there's that overlying authority that is going to say, well, this is for the benefit of the organization. So I just want to chime in because as I work with customers as they implement, this is an important key that is missed. And then often, a customer is live and then it's more of a regression, we should have. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that there's a strong governance around the unification of Employee Center Pro so you could start off on the right foot. So thanks, Rue.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Yeah, that's a great call out. I know one of our customers recently told us that they brought together their IT and their HR in the same Employee Center Pro instance. Actually, I think they were on Enterprise, Employee Center Enterprise instance. And they said, for them, the biggest challenge was the fact that IT agents and HR agents processed cases differently, and their intake was slightly different. So they had to make sure that their shared portal sort of recognized the differences and made sure that the IT team got what they needed to process cases and service requests, and the HR also got what they needed and were able to process service requests. So that governance was a core component of their implementation as well. Yeah, so Employee Center Academies. One of the things I want to make sure none of you miss is the fact that we have Employee Center Academies. These happen monthly. The next one is tomorrow. So if you have an opportunity to join that session, it would be great. It's about service catalog and knowledge experiences on Employee Center. These happen again every month. Pooja leads most of these sessions. They're great sessions. They really help drive down into what you can do with Employee Center, how you can measure your success. So definitely I'm promoting these sessions specifically. I think they'll be very useful for you. Poll question number 2. So after the presentation we've just done, and you've heard a little bit about these different aspects of HRSD, what are you considering implementing? And this one won't pop up. This is just if you have a thought about what you're trying to do or what you want to do, please put it in the chat. While you're doing that, I'm going to continue moving, but yeah, let us know if there's some specific feature. And again, keep those questions coming through the Q&A panel. Yeah, features of HRSD and Employee Center. So again, just coming back to this, a centralized agent workspace, improves self-service for your employees, centralized knowledge for all of your employees. This could include agents, managers, your ICs, your individual contributors. Could be targeted knowledge for your executives as well. So having a place for all knowledge is a good thing. Securing your employee data, especially confidential data, as well as just data around, how much, things like, payroll or, levels. Always a good idea to secure that employee data and then having reports and dashboards, both the ones that come out of the box as well as the ones you can build. So I'm a big fan of sort of building my own, because there may be things I'm trying to do, and I need that insight to make the right decisions. And then Employee Center Pro, the curated experience with the unified taxonomy, mega menu, and the topic pages, so you can really get employees into specific information. And then the content experiences and having those targeted campaigns. One of the biggest challenges is making sure the content that you present, because usually there's too much content. It's a challenge to make sure that that content that you present is relevant to that employee. So having the content experiences and the targeted campaigns and communications really make sure employees are getting the information they need, specifically for their own daily work life. And then integration capabilities such as the SSO app launcher. We didn't talk about that earlier, but having an ability to launch other tools and applications using the SSO app launcher from Employee Center without having your employees need to log in again or have to go try to find that right tool to complete their task. And then enterprise search. It's great having a good search capability so employees can really find the information and services they need. So definitely that improved search is really useful for employees. And then I want to talk a little bit about managing the HRSD project. We tend to talk about the features quite a bit, but we don't always talk about some of those leading practices around managing the project. I've been through a few of these HRSD projects myself, both as a customer and as a consultant. And I know that there are a lot of decisions that need to get made now to build on your success and get you to a run state in the near future. So, knowing what your business outcomes are is probably the first step. What are you really trying to do? Are you trying to build an omni-channel mobile experience because you have a lot of deskless workers? Maybe there are folks in the factory or in other facilities who don't have access to a desktop and need help. So you're focused on having a mobile experience, and maybe doing the Employee Center mobile. Maybe you have a need to get your employee experience and your agent experience solved, because your agents are combing through an email inbox for all the cases that are coming in. I was part of that in the past, and that was a real challenge for our agents who are trying to work cases out of a shared inbox. How much self-help and self-service do you want employees to be able to do? Can they do things themselves so they don't need that agent support? So that may be one of your business outcomes. And then, I just got this quote and thought it was good. If you don't know where you're going, then how do you know when you've arrived? So again, think about your business outcomes, think about where you're going and how you're going to get there, and how these applications can help you get to that sort of end state that you want. Your scope, what are your KPIs? Are you doing a multi-function unified portal? Are you thinking about universal request, which is one of our features, because you might have cases that need to be handed off between, like an onboarding case, and it needs to be handed off between HR and IT, or HR and facilities, because you need to provision a workspace. So that having knowing what your scope is. Maybe there are other capabilities like the virtual agent capability that you want to bring online. So you have to think about, what is that scope? What are you trying to accomplish? And in what order are you trying to accomplish it? Then you've also got things like, what are your current processes? Maybe they're not the processes you want, but they're the ones that you have. Getting those documented and knowing what they are, and then being able to build workflows and improve workflows over time is critical. And then what are your KPIs, right? Are you trying to do case avoidance, case deflection? or are you trying to get a faster time to resolution? So again, think about those. What is your scope and what are your KPIs for measuring your success? Having a rollout plan over here in the third column. Who does the project work? So who's going to get this? Do you have a specific target group that you're going to roll this out to first? Are you going to roll it out globally all at the same time? How deep are you going, right? Are you looking at your most frequently asked questions and building knowledge around those? Or are you trying to build knowledge around everything? And then, are you bringing together all your knowledge and all your services, or are you targeting, again, high volume cases first? And then who's doing the work, right? Is it going to be a partner? Are you going to engage, we have our ServiceNow expert services, or are you going to self-deploy? And if you self-deploy, do you have the skills to do that? So again, these are considerations that you need to make as you're starting to work on your plan for deploying HRSD. Getting the skills. So again, earlier we were talking about the Get Started document. There are links to all of these certifications, but we have a few certifications that we definitely highlight to our new HRSD customers. There is an HR Human Resources Implementation certification. There's the ServiceNow Administration certification and an Application Developer certification as well. So if you're looking to do some of your own apps or build on top of what we provide, you can have that certification. We did a lot of sort of community developer work in my old organization, and it was really useful to be able to build kind of the employee experiences that we wanted to build. So having these skills and taking these certifications certainly takes your business a step ahead. And I would recommend this, even if you're having a partner or expert services do the work. Having this foundation is good for your core team. All right, the folks who are going to be involved with HRSD or with Employee Center should definitely have some skills here. And then you've got to deploy this and manage it, right? So oftentimes the project seems to end with we've released something. We've released the new Employee Center Pro. We've got some knowledge articles. We've got service catalog, but that's not where the work ends, right? You basically have to run this on a daily basis. You're going to get feedback. There are going to be improvements that you can make. So you definitely want to think about what is our deployment plan and how we're going to manage in the future. So starting in that left-hand corner, I'm a big fan of deploying the solution that I want in sub-production, working through my use cases, doing the testing, testing out my configurations, getting a few users into the system so they can test out the process, and then training, right? You're going to need to train your agents on how to use the agent workspace. You're going to need to train. Maybe you want to do some communications to your employees about how things will change. So definitely that's sort of early on in that deployment phase. And then who's going to get your access in the middle column? What's your minimum lovable product? We like to say. What are the things that are going to make the employees want to use the HR service delivery and the Employee Center Pro? Are they going to be doing it because they really like, the experiences you built for them? Or is it just another tool that they have to use because there's no other way? I always like to say, what are the things that they're trying to do? What are the intents? And are we building to make sure that those intents are met? And then the last one is, management operations plan. How will you respond to the feedback that you get, or you see a high volume of cases? What is your plan for maybe changing the catalog item or improving the knowledge? And then, what are those next opportunities? What are those next features that you might want to roll out? Are you thinking about rolling out a virtual agent? Are you going from a desktop experience to a mobile experience? Are you doing universal request? There are other capabilities that you can bring online as you mature, and so you should be thinking about, like, what is the company roadmap? Where are you seeing the opportunities? And I think having followed this from sort of the what should we be doing and what are our goals, all the way through the how are we going to keep this thing operational and measure our success, is kind of a nice flow through that project. Okay, another poll question. So quickly, do you feel that this webinar has helped you explore features that can be beneficial to your organizational efficiency? Okay, so I'm just going to say I personally am pretty happy to hear that that we're getting more yeses than nos. So I do appreciate that. You know, we want to make sure that you're getting what you need. So so if you do have something that you think you wanted us to cover that we didn't cover, please, you can put that in chat, or you can ask the question in the Q&A panel to make sure that you get the information that you want. All right, so 21 yeses and one no. Yeah, definitely let us know. We want to know what we've you know, where there are gaps, because these sessions should be designed to help you find what you need and do what you need. A session on knowledge management, planning through deployment, including governance. Oh yeah, Merlin, thank you for adding that. There are some knowledge management configurations. We'll take this under advisement and make sure that we think about something like a knowledge best practices session, where we can talk about things like the you know, how to plan, how to design a knowledge template, you know, how to govern your knowledge. I think that would be a great session to have. So thank you for adding that. And then process optimization on case management. That's another great one. So, you know, those are good. Definitely, you know, send us that feedback. We'll be looking at doing more of these sessions in the future, and you know, based on your feedback, we'll look at those as topics to go after. So yeah, so a lot of yeses, one no, but very happy that, and anyone else who has thoughts around topics that they'd like to see in the future, please let us know. Then we're going to go to another poll question, which is poll question number 4. Can we pull up poll question number 4? Sorry, 3 re-popped up for me, which is, do you feel that this webinar has helped you prepare to plan your deployment? So I'm seeing mostly yeses and a couple nos. Would love to, you know, again, let us know what you're hearing or seeing, or what you need, and we'll look at how we can get more information for you. Here in just a moment, we'll go through the Q&A, and hopefully you'll get some more information there as well. Okay, so a few no's. Always good to know what we can do better. So let us know in the chat if there's something that you still have a question about, or you're not getting an answer that you think you need. But we definitely want to give you, you know, the best practices, share the resources with you, share some of our insights, and hopefully help you move forward. All right, so yeah, so related live on ServiceNow and Academy sessions. Sorry, folks. Related live on ServiceNow and Academy sessions. You know, we have a number of these. Obviously, you can go to the link for HR service delivery events. either filter for past recorded sessions or upcoming events, to register for HRSD or Employee Center sessions, as well as other topics. So definitely take advantage of this series. There's more information coming. And then the HRSD community, we have a community site. We have the HRSD community where you can go out and find information. This session will be linked from there, as well as information around getting started, configuring, optimizing, and doing more, as you can see from the screenshot. But there is a community for HRSD. There's also a community for our Employee Center product. So definitely go out to the community at ServiceNow.com and take a look at what information is out there and available to you. As well, you can ask questions of both your peers, partners, and HR and ServiceNow HR subject matter experts who are participating in that community. Okay, so here's our Q&A session. I'm going to throw it over to Michael. Michael, if you want to chime in with any good questions that you'd like to share with the broader group.
Thanks, Ru. So there were some questions that came up during the session, but certainly ask any questions at this point as well from the audience. But the first question, we were on the HR group slide, and the question is, do these HR groups have a profile that allows them to access certain aspects of the solution? The question is yes, and that's role-based access. So each of these HR groups have roles that are applied. So some are inherited, but long story short is that each of the HR groups have a role that's applied. That role gives them access to different areas of the application, which is all part of a scoped application. So one of the questions I had queued up was around that, what is the scoped application? And for those that aren't very familiar, it's role-based access within this scoped application. And just think of the instance as a home. And each of the rooms is a different application or scoped application that you can access, but you can only get in that door if you have the key. So just think of HR, Human Resources Service Delivery, being one of those rooms that you can only get in if you have that key being one of the HR roles. We also, just to add to this question, we also have what we call the COE or the COE security policies that allow you to give access or restrict access based on that group membership. So we see this a lot with employee relations, that only employee relations groups can see those employee relations cases. That's done by leveraging the out-of-box functionality using the roles or the RBA, the role-based access, and the COE security policy. So again, no code solutions in order to meet your use case by leveraging those out-of-box roles. The second question that came up was around licensing for Employee Center Pro. So the question was, do you need the enterprise license for Employee Center Pro? And this is a question really you should ask your account representative, but just in general, the Employee Center Pro is a entitlement that you have with the enterprise or with the professional SKUs of HR Service Delivery. There was one additional question before if any additional questions come in, we'll address those. There's a function of delegated development in HR Service Delivery and really on the instance itself. And the question is how can delegated development work in HR Service Delivery? So delegated development is a way for us to give additional permissions for configuration and some scripting type functions within HR Service Delivery. So you may have a group lead that you want to be able to create assignment rules, or you wanted to be able to create some HR specific function or record within that function. You could grant them delegated development in order to give that additional permission to do those type of functions. So again, delegated development is a great utility to use within HR Service Delivery to help normalize some of those HR functions. So it's not just your HR admin that has to do all of the configuration, some that may be at a group level. So those are the questions that came up in the chat. I'll go through some that were answered, just so we have this as a recorded session, just so we can have this for those individuals as well. So one of the questions was that around licensing. So the question was, I noticed that HR Service Delivery prod counts the number of HR profile records as the number of subscription usage. There are employee and contractors and other users on the HR profile. The question is how not to populate contractors into HR profile, and is there any impact not to use the contractors on HR profile records? So to answer that question, customers typically, like with our out-of-box integrations, they'll extend those conditions to only pull employees. So exclude contractors, contingent workers. So then we're not creating HR profiles to keep you in compliance with your employee license. A note to add to this is that when I create a case, and I look up a user, by core functionality, I'm looking at the HR profile. If not found, I'm also looking at the sys user. The issue there where you have to take into consideration is that I can create a case by somebody that's in the sys user table. Once I create that case, it's going to automatically create an HR profile for that individual, regardless if they were employee or contractor. So those are the type of things that you have to consider if you're going to pull only employees, but have contractors in your sys user. So again, just more of a tip and trick, because we see some customers that will have HR profiles created, and they've excluded contractors within their HR or their HCM feed. So keep those things in consideration as you go to configure your integration with your HCMs to only pull employees. So those are the questions that I think came up in the chat, or we pasted to go or to answer live. So I'll give it back to you, Rue, with 5 minutes to spare.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Yeah, I just saw Merlin, you put a question in here or an ask that said, can you share KPIs from customers that have implemented case and knowledge? And I think that's a very timely question, because I'm actually working on an article that I'm going to be publishing in Community around measuring success. All right, so that will be probably in the next couple of weeks. There will be an article in the HR Service Delivery community forum that will talk about different ways to measure your success using case and knowledge. So it's coming, and there are actually existing articles out there that in bits and pieces talk about things like measuring case deflection. I know one of our peers has published an article out there that's pretty useful that I'll also be referencing. But yes, we'll have something out there. And then the questions around knowledge management, deployment through governance, and then the process optimization with case management. I know that there's more content coming in those areas as well, and we'll look at whether we can pull together some more live on ServiceNow webinars to cover some of those topics, and or create content out on Community for you. So with that, I'm going to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for joining us. It was great to have you here and to be able to present to you today. And we definitely look forward to hearing from you more down the road. Goodbye.